going on, everyone? So the Chicago Bulls are a very interesting team going the rest of this season, right? Many believe that they're a team that are going to be sellers because they're not really in a position to have any success this season. Now they have been a little better as of late, but they are currently, at the time of this video, on a 2-game losing streak. They are currently out of a play-in spot, but they're tied for 10th and only half a game out of 9th. So they very likely could squeeze into the play-in, but this team just hasn't been what they had hoped, right? This team isn't a very good team. Even if they do make the playoffs, you're probably getting smacked and a first-round exit, and it's like you're cap-strapped, you're probably losing Vu. The Orlando Magic own all of your picks. Like, it's at least the next 2 years. And it's just like you're in just a bad spot if you're Chicago. So what do? And the thought is, well, you unload Zach Lavine to a team like the Knicks that'll give you the farm for him. DeMar DeRozan, maybe you trade him to a team like the Lakers because the Lakers would be more than happy to give up both first-round picks for DeMar DeRozan. You unload DeMar to the Lakers. You unload Zach Lavine to the Knicks. You get a bunch of draft picks. You maybe could even squeeze out some young assets like a Grimes or something like that quickly from the Knicks. And now you got some young pieces and you got a bunch of draft picks going forward. You unloaded these two. Get what you can for Vu, unless you throw Vu into the DeMar trade. Like, say you take on Russ and you get the 2 firsts for DeMar and Vu. Maybe even get a couple seconds out of the Lakers because the Lakers would be more than happy to trade whatever to get those guys because that's just what the Lakers like, right? They like the names on the back of the jerseys. And then on top of that, you have other pieces that you could then unload, trade, and try to start hitting the reset button. Start trying to rebuild. You do have a protection on the pick next season, so maybe you could get that pick back. But this season, unless you could squeeze into the top 4, you're not going to convey your pick. But depending on how much you unload, like if you unload everybody, you very well might be able to get to maybe the 5th, 6th worst team, and then maybe you get the lottery odds to kind of fall into your lap, right? And maybe all of a sudden, you go, because right now they're sitting in 7th, right? So if they unloaded everybody, I don't think it's unrealistic to think they go from 7th to 5th or maybe 4th. Probably not 4th. They could probably catch 5th because they're only 3.5 games out of being in the 5 spot in the tanking race. And then, you get the luck of the balls to fall your way. You only have to get into the top 4. If you get into the top 4, then you get to keep your pick this year. And this is a very deep draft. So it's just something to keep in mind. But the Chicago Bulls have made a couple players available based on reports. And one of those players is Alex Caruso, which I do think Alex Caruso would be a very beneficial piece to a lot of teams, right? I mean, he's, hard-nosed, 3-and-D style point guard, shooting guard. He's got some reasonable size at 6'4", and, he's just a strong, hardworking, gets out of it, nonstop type of guard, right? And he's a guy that has had kind of a rough season this year. He hasn't been what he was this year. He's only averaging basically 5 points per game. He doesn't have what it seems like he had. He's shooting 43% from the field overall. He is shooting 38% from 3, but only on 2 attempts per game. So he's not shooting high volume, and he's not being the guy that he was, right? He's definitely regressed from what he was with the Lakers. Now, a lot of that might be he's not playing next to LeBron, and he's a high IQ player that really just plays well off of guys like LeBron. So he would have to go to a team like the Warriors. I think he'd be great on the Warriors, right? You got a bunch of high IQ players. The system and offense that they run, I think Alex Caruso would really thrive in. You'd be able to get that hard. Look at what DiVincenzo's been able to do. You basically get another one of those in Alex Caruso, which, the Warriors would love to have a bench full of Alex Carusos and DiVincenzo's, right? So I do think a team like that would be great. But the asking price, based on reports for Alex Caruso, are delusional at best. They want 2 first-round picks for Alex Caruso, a guy that is shooting 43% from the field on 4 attempts per game, a guy that is only averaging 5 points per game, and they want 2 first-round picks for him. Now, how much of this is just like oh, well, we're just shooting for the stars and maybe we land somewhere in orbit or something, right? Like that's kind of what this could be. Or it's more of like, get teams question. Like there's no way we're giving up two first round picks for Caruso, but maybe we'll give up a first for Kobe White, or something like that, right? Maybe kind of using Alex Caruso as the bait to overprice him so much that now it's like, well, this guy just seems cheaper. Like you ever go into a store and you're like, that's, $20. And then you look to your right and it's like, well, that's $15 and that isn't much better. Like that's not too far away from that. So like, why wouldn't I just get this? And this is actually going to last longer, right? You see those things and it's like, okay, well, and in reality, they're both overpriced, but one is just insanely overpriced. So the other one that's just slightly overpriced seems more reasonable. That's kind of what this feels like to me. This feels like, Chicago is trying to make pieces so high that it sounds ridiculous so they could get better prices and better offers on other players, because Alex Caruso isn't making that much money to where it's like, oh man, like we can't keep him if we're going to rebuild. But regardless, like Chicago's got to really make a decision. Now, personally, I don't think Chicago's going to do anything till the offseason. I don't. I think they'll ride out this season. Maybe they trade like an Alex Caruso or Kobe White, but I don't think they go full-fledged, blow up, rebuild until next season or the offseason. I think most likely what will happen is they'll ride this season out, see if they get into a play-in. Maybe they squeeze into the playoffs. If they squeeze into the playoffs, I still think they're going to get smacked. Because the first round, they're going to end up having to play either Boston or Milwaukee, and they're just going to get ran through in probably 4. Maybe they get lucky and win 1 and lose in 5. And then in the offseason, I think they really start, okay, well, let's unload DeMar. Let's unload Zach Lavine. Let's unload those things. Although I don't think they get as much, right? Because like DeMar, I don't know who's trading for DeMar DeRozan, right? Zach Lavine, like I said, the Knicks, I think, would give up the farm for Zach Lavine. And there are already reports that say like if Zach Lavine becomes available, the Knicks are going to offer what was said as a Godfather package. So we'll see what that is. But DeMar DeRozan, I don't know what team would trade for him outside of like the Lakers. I really don't. And Alex Caruso, maybe they move off of him this season. If not, then I could see them maybe moving off of him in the offseason. But he's most likely, my guess would be like a filler. But the problem is that, like I said, DeMar DeRozan, in the offseason, unless you're doing a sign and trade for Russell Westbrook, which makes 0 sense, right? Because if you're rebuilding, you're rebuilding. So if you're not trading DeMar this season, you might end up getting stuck with DeMar DeRozan, because teams like the Lakers aren't going to have that contract to go match what you need them to match. And they're not trading LeBron James or Anthony Davis for DeMar. So, like, Chicago's in a very interesting place, but it doesn't really seem like they want to rebuild yet, right? And it's like, this is a team that they probably should have rebuilded like a month ago. They probably should have sold everybody off like a month ago. But I think Chicago felt like, oh, we can turn it around, went on a nice little win streak. Okay, look, we're back in track. And then immediately went on like a 4-game losing streak. And they just consistently, they'll win 2 games, lose 2 games, win 2 games, lose 2 games. And that's just kind of, Chicago's just inconsistent. They've been in a lot of close games. And I just think Chicago had this idea of like, okay, like we can pull this out, right? Like we can come back, we can turn this season around, and they just haven't been able to. And now it kind of feels like it might be a little too late, but you're right there as far as like getting into the top 5 if you unload everybody. And then if you just jump one spot, right? Like all you have to do is like hopefully the dominoes fall in your place. You jump one spot. Now you at least get to keep this year's pick. Problem is like if you land the number 5 pick, then that sucks, because then it just goes to the Magic, and now you just gave the Magic a top 5 pick. So it would be a little bit of a risk. But could you get? I think you'd get more right now than you would in the offseason. Because again, I think the Knicks, they feel like they're a piece away from being right there, right? The Knicks have been really good this season. So I could see the Knicks maybe giving you more right now than they would otherwise. They currently sit in the 7th seed, but they're only a game out of 6th, which means they wouldn't have to be in the play-in. And they're only like 2.5 games out of 5th and 3 games out of 4th. So they might look at Lavine as like, hey, that like he makes us a top 5 team in the league. So let's go get Lavine and let's make this push. And I think you would get a lot more for Lavine. The Lakers right now, I think, would give you whatever you want for DeMar DeRozan. So I think if you're the Bulls, I think right now, like, yes, you're taking a gamble on your pick this year, because if you don't jump a spot, or, maybe potentially 2, then Orlando gets your pick, but you're also going to get more now than you would ever have gotten in the offseason. So I think you still do it. And then if, the basketball gods shine their light on you, you land in the top 4. Now you also got a top 4 pick going forward. You could get maybe one of the Thompson twins or something. There you go. Now you're off to the races, and you can start kind of jump-starting this rebuild. That's sort of my thoughts and opinions on it. And I think the Alex Caruso 2 first is just like it's just a ploy to kind of get more for other guys. That's kind of my thought. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree? Yeah, this is silly. It's ridiculous. Do you think Chicago should blow it up now? Do you think you wait till the offseason? Whatever your thoughts are, however you feel about it, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments section below.